right now you're telling me about strength and the difference between strength in America as it's perceived and strength in Asia as it's perceived. So can you continue telling me about that?
Of course, even if we think about it on the most basic level, on the physical level, in America, if we see strength, that means height, it means muscles. It's something that we visually see. You go to Asia and we see strength in a different way. It could be that 90-year-old who's still exercising or riding a bicycle.
Okay.
Their body may look nondescript. I won't go so far to say frail, but it might look, it's not anything that would evoke the image of strength, but it's internal. The fact that you're 90, your mind is strong, you're still walking, riding bikes, you go to the store by yourself, you prepare your own food. That is a level of strength. If we look at the nature of even the sports in Asia, if it's kendo or karate or judo, whatever, they're not always necessarily physically looking the most intimidating, but their strength is there nonetheless.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's just take a couple steps back.
Of course.
I'm doing this recording for Black Asian Magazine, and tell me your name and tell me where you're from and where have you lived before.
Okay. My name is Francesca Nicole Conate. I was born and raised in California, where I went to high school. When I graduated, I moved to Washington, D.C. to go to Howard University. I studied there for a few years. I did go to Howard.
Okay.
Studied there, I was studying international business. Did not finish, moved down to Atlanta because that's where my parents relocated.
Can I ask you when you graduated from Howard?
Sorry?
When did you graduate from Howard?
I did not graduate from Howard. I did not finish from Howard. I came to Atlanta and graduated from Mercer University.
What year, when did you start? When were you supposed to graduate? What would have been your senior year finishing?
Well, I graduated high school in 89. So if I was at 89, 90, 91, 92, I guess 93, I should have been my graduating year. 93, 94. At Howard.
Okay. So where have you lived in the, well, before that, I understand you have a very unique background. You told me a little bit about it before. Can you reiterate once again your parents, where are they from, and how does that make you you?
Okay. So I always start with my family name. My family name is Conate, and that is from Mali. My paternal grandfather was from Mali. He migrated to Sierra Leone in West Africa, where he met the daughter of a chief of a village called Matru. That's where my father was born.
Can you say
my father was born?
The village
say
name?
Again?
The village name again?
Matru.
Okay.
And my father was born and raised there, came to America. So in that sense, I feel like I've always had a desire to be close to and to know my African ancestry, specifically for Sierra Leone and Mali, but just Africa in general.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. And so you were born in you said
California. San Mateo. Right. The Bay Area in California.
What was it that prompted you to leave America in the first place? And which places have you been to before in the world?
I think my interest in just exploring the world in general started in high school because I went to a boarding school and there were girls. Actually, one of my first roommates, she was from Guatemala. And we're still in contact now on Facebook. She's in Guatemala now. I believe she's in Guatemala now. So I met girls from around the world. And I loved it. And after I graduated from high school, as I said, I went to Washington, D.C., to Howard University, and enjoyed being in that international environment. There are a lot of major embassies in D.C. People from around the world were there. So I really enjoyed that eclectic, diverse feeling. While I was in D.C., I had the opportunity to go to Amsterdam. And it was a paid trip. And I went as a chaperone for an all-girls basketball team that they were doing exhibition games in Amsterdam. So that was the first time to get my passport to travel abroad, and that's all it took. After that, I was like,
After that, you got the travel. I think, the first place I went to was in Paris.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we did Paris and London my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And that's when I got bit by that same traveling bug. And you're just like,
Right.
you enjoy being abroad. You enjoy the
Exactly.
newness and the freshness and the
Definitely.
getting out of it all.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So you lived in Japan for quite a long time. Like, when did you first go to Japan? And how long were you there? And where were you? And what did you think of it?
So the first time I went to Japan was in 2001.
Okay.
I was there that first time for about maybe 2 years, 2 years straight. I didn't come home. I definitely loved it. I was prepared for something to be dramatically different, which it was, but I wasn't prepared to actively find my happiness, in the sense of, I thought me just being there was going to be enough. But it wasn't, because what the routine became was basically you work and then you hang out with other foreigners, other expats. And generally that environment had me around a lot of people who were unhappy and complaining. I thought, oh, I'm so excited to be around all these amazing people. I'm coming to this foreign country and I'm going to meet people from around the world. But a lot of people were actually unhappy. And I was very surprised, and I wasn't prepared for that. There were a lot of people who were, I guess, getting away from their country or their own personal circumstances. So there was a lot of unhappiness. There was a lot of negativity. Okay. And I wasn't prepared for that. And at that time, I really didn't make or reach out to have genuine Japanese friends. So I felt very isolated. When I first went there, I was living more in a country area known as Tochigi. Tochigi-ken, that's kind of like, I guess that'd be the equivalent of our state. And I was about 3 hours from Tokyo. So I was a little disappointed about that, because I felt I came all the way to this country and I'm like in the boondocks. I was a little unhappy. Returned to the States because I thought, I'm not happy. I was home for maybe about 2 years and felt this was anticlimactic. And I wasn't happy that I came home because I felt defeated. I didn't come home because I had completed what I wanted to do, which was to have an amazing experience, but because I couldn't do it anymore. So I returned around 2005 and stayed continuously into 2013.
All right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Of course.
Continue moving forward. How did you feel specifically as a Black person living in Japan, and then even more detail than that, as a Black woman living in Japan in that society?
Interesting. I guess in terms of how I felt perceived, my first image was African American, because I knew that was going to stand out the most. That was my biggest concern. I didn't know how I was going to be received. I was in a more kind of country rural area. And then I guess to a degree I felt concerned about being a female, because I felt like Japanese culture was much more male-centric.
Much more
male-centric, focused on men, but I guess the same could be said for America as well. But I felt like, at least in America, we see women, doing amazing things and businesses and this and that.
I would say maybe more male-dominated. Maybe I would go as far as saying chauvinistic. Having lived there for a time myself, it can be like that. I can see. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, the reason why I'm hesitating, because that aspect is definitely there, but I feel like the second time I understood how to take power, the fact that I'm a foreigner living in a foreign country. So as a foreign woman, I feel I had a little bit more autonomy and freedom than as a Japanese woman living in Japan. Okay. And there's always that initial curiosity when people meet me. What is she about? What is she going to be like? I'm not even quite sure. Actually, I never even asked people what was their image or stereotype of me. But I felt after teaching and engaging with people, it's so apparent that I genuinely love people. It is apparent that I'm wanting to connect with people. And I felt then and even now that connecting with people really doesn't have as much to do with language as people think it does. It is your attitude, it is your heart, it is your energy that are going to repel or attract people. And so in that sense, I felt like I always had great opportunities and positive experiences in meeting people for the first time. As I got more comfortable with myself being a foreigner standing out, I felt like I was even getting accepted even more because there was a level of comfort that I radiated. Like me or not, I'm here. I'm happy, I'm safe, I'm doing my thing. Your opinion means very little to me. And I think that kind of gave me a power that, in a sense, made people gravitate towards me or feel comfortable with me because I felt comfortable in my own skin.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So what kind of jobs or businesses did you see Black people involved in there in Japan? And we just, before I hit the record button, we sort of talked about this at length. And okay, so first tell me.
What do you mean when you say Black people? You mean like African American? Like, what do you mean jobs? I don't understand. Clarify that for me.
African Americans, Afro Caribbeans, Africans, Black Britons, all of this. What kind of jobs they do? Were they starting their own businesses? I know quite a few people, like in the Roppongi district, have open bars, maybe trading or something like that. Or also, I know a lot of people teach English.
So, I can only speak from my experience. That most African Americans are either in the military or teaching English.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
That's not to say that they're not business owners, entrepreneurs. There are people doing things. I actually have a very good friend who I consider my cousin. He's in the Osaka area, and he is a entrepreneur doing many different projects. So, of course, there are pockets and there are people who are doing things here and there. But in terms of coming to or examples of business ownership, for me, all my examples would be coming from Africans because those are the ones that I knew to own businesses, to have businesses.
Okay. So like, what kind of businesses?
A range of businesses from, it could be anything from a club or a restaurant to employment agency to exporting used cars to West Africa is a very popular
destination
profession.
Okay, for cars. Okay.
Right. So those are the things I'm aware of. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm the definitive expert on it because I'm sure there are a lot more other things that I'm unaware of, but from my personal experiences.
Okay.
Those were some of the jobs that African business owners had.
All right. Okay, so within the African diaspora, like we just mentioned, like Black Americans, Africans, Black Britons, Afro-Caribbeans, what it seems like to me is that there's a disconnect, and we just talked about that a bit too, between Western Black people and African Black people. And what you told me a minute ago, like right before I pressed record, it actually helped me gain some insight to what I've been scratching at for a number of years right now. What I mean is the way that we were raised, like our parents, a lot of our parents in America give us African names. They raised us to be very Afrocentric. I think there was a turning point with Black Americans when we started looking more towards Africa and embracing that identity. And that helped pull us out of the hole we were in. And for us, it's like our generation was supposed to go out and connect with people who look like us and make things better for all of us in the global sense. And it seems like, to me at least, with Black Americans, with maybe Afro-Caribbeans, maybe with Black Europeans, there's a sense that, okay, we have this commonality, we have some kind of a group think going on. But when I've spoken to Africans, it's like it's not there, or it's hard. Like what I think should be there, I can't figure out how to maybe talk to this person in a way that's as direct or as comfortable as I would talk to a Black American. What are your thoughts on this? What I see as a disconnect.
Actually, you said something that was kind of interesting, and I'm like, it's admirable and interesting to expect a level of solidarity between Africans in the diaspora and Africans on the continent when we in the diaspora don't even have solidarity amongst ourselves. So yes, we can talk to each other. I can say, hey, what's up? You can speak to me. But still the basic things like, do we support Black businesses? Do we encourage, as we know, for example, something that immediately comes to mind, one of the biggest industries, healthcare, beauty, hair, especially for Black women, weaves, beauty supply. Is it still 2017 and it's that hard for us to figure out that's where we put our money? So why don't we support each other and create our own stores that we support? We love to talk about how the Korean-owned beauty supply store, they're racist, they're wrong, they're this or that, but yet and still we don't do it. We have money because we spend it on things that we feel are important. If that's our car or something that is not necessarily going to promote value, but something that promotes a status in the here and now. So I feel like your question is legit about that solidarity, that gap between the two. But I'm like, you know, as they always say, we always have to take care of home before we go outside. If we can't, for example, let's just say, let's have a Black-owned bookstore. And let's support these things and let's promote reading and literacy in our community. If our schools are doing a disservice to our children, that has nothing to do with the disservice we're doing to our own community. Why can't we do that? If we can, you know all the latest lyrics, talk about these MCs, expect them to be held to a higher standard in terms of raising our children or the ideas that they mold, why do we not do those things ourselves? Okay. And before we can really, like I said, your point is very valid, so I don't mean to avoid answering the question about African Americans and Africans, but I'm like, when you said it, it just really struck me. We don't even have that unity here. And it's a very divisive thing, and it's on a different lot of levels. It could be on socio-political, it could be on shit, it could, excuse me, be on things that,
no, it's fine. That's fine. That's okay. This is, as we're talking, whatever comes up, comes out. Let it roll.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine.
Because I feel like, we're always, that's so, again, human nature. We always want to look to an external. Why can't we do this, and that? The first thing we could do is do ourselves and do it well, take care of ourselves. And the next thing, build within our community. Are there Black-owned businesses that we could be supporting that are struggling, that are about to go out of business? Can we not support our own Black-owned banks or put money in there so that we can get loans to do businesses? Before we worry about, I went to Africa and they weren't nice to me, or they frowned on me, or they judged me, why can't we promote the very things that we want here? Because our immediate family is here. Not implying that that's not our family as well, but do we need to focus on that, or do we need to make sure that all our children are reading? Do we need to make sure that all our kids have access to clean, healthy food and not just eating junk food and chemically laced whatever? I mean, I find that to be a more burning question than, I went to Africa and they weren't nice to me, or they felt aloof, or legitimate questions.
Yeah. I mean, very like legitimate. Person to person level. Can I go out and have a beer with someone and talk to them and hang out with them? That's what I'm talking about. Like business.
But person to person is exactly that. It's person to person. It's between you and the other person to agree. Can you? Of course you can. Is it easy? I don't know. Is there a way to make it easier? Again, I don't know. I can only speak from my experience. I've never had a problem interacting with anybody from any country in any setting at any time. That's all I can speak on. Can I give you advice on how to make friends and play nice with Africans? Not really.
Not really.
One, I'm a woman. Two, my background is different. My experience is different. Maybe how I'm perceived is also different. And
you said something very pertinent a moment ago about Black Americans being perceived by Africans from the continent as though we have a privilege. And maybe we're a little bit snobbish or something like that. And because of that perception, it creates a negative response. Do you think that did I phrase that correctly? That we're
I think what you said, there's some validity to it. I don't know about the blanket statement, because like I said, I went to Sierra Leone in West Africa, which is considered one of the poorest countries in the world. And obviously they know I'm from America, because although we all have melanin, it's different. and they can tell everything, the way I carry myself, the way I talk, everything. I never felt that disconnect of, oh, you must think you're somebody special because you're from America.
Okay.
That's not to say it couldn't have been there. That's to say I personally did not experience that. I've been to Ghana twice in different settings. I've been to an area that I guess would be our equivalent of a ghetto. I didn't even feel like anybody really cared or batted an eyelash that I was there. So it's very difficult to generalize something so personal as these interactions and how to improve them and what they are. Again, I mean, I know it's not an easy thing to do, but I feel like it's more about engaging the actual community that you want to build those relationships with. I'm on the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. I'm a female. I have different experiences. I'm treated differently than you are, you being a man. So I feel like my opinion is only that. And I feel like, I don't know how much weight it can hold, because there are people you can ask more directly, more specifically to get a better idea.
Okay. Me. All right. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Tell me about your Facebook page. Why did you set it up? What is it geared towards? What kind of information can I get by looking at it? What's up there? And just like, plug away. What's it called?
Thank you. So I have a Facebook group called African Japan. Mm-hmm. I started it about 10 years ago. Actually, December 4th will make my 10-year anniversary. When I initially started it, it was just to share with my immediate friends different things and events I would go to. So, for example, there's a really wonderful Ethiopian restaurant that I like to Nakameguro. And maybe I would put pictures on Facebook and my friends would be like, oh, where's that? Or you didn't tell me you were going. So to avoid me trying to send invitations to everybody, I just put this group, this is where I'm going this week, or this event is coming up soon, or this festival is going on. This African embassy has an event that people are welcome to come to. So it started like that. Mm-hmm. Then it grew. The majority of my members obviously are in Japan, Japanese and African and foreigners. Then it started growing because as it grew, I realized I want to continue to add content. I'm not always going to be able to showcase African-based events that are going on in Japan. So then I used it as an opportunity and a platform to share positive stories about development in Africa by Africans for Africa. So I use it as an opportunity to just share wonderful stories that don't seem to make it in the mainstream.
Okay.
Or we don't get to hear often. And so this is a place, if you come, you're guaranteed to see something positive and exciting and wonderful related to African development, related to achievements. And then, of course, events related to different things, African, restaurants or dances or festivals in Japan.
Okay. All right. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, I agree with you 100% that stories about certainly Africans, Black people in general, in the mainstream media, unless they're negative, they're not really shown. The positive stories are actually in the majority, but those stories are obscured, and what gets pushed to the forefront are the
Agreed.
Things. I want to ask you two more questions actually, but one more specifically. This question, it's kind of spur of the moment thing. We didn't discuss it before. Answer it as fully as you'd like to. What I see, what's happening in Asia, sometimes yes, sometimes no, but the discrimination that Black people face sometimes. When people in the West, it's like we're used to it. And I'm not sure in Africa there actually is racism. I don't know. But it seems like in Africa, do you think people from Africa understand racism? That's my one.
In my opinion, of course. How can they not? Because racism, actually, I think we were saying before, in my opinion, it is human nature for someone to always want to be above someone else. So it could be in the form of racism, sexism, ageism, tribism. There's so many different ways for us to want to differentiate. So no, it's not a foreign concept. Even if a woman never felt sexism before, she can understand what it feels like to not be taken fully at face value. We can translate that into say, oh, okay, so I might be in a place where I'm judged by my gender, by my age, by my color. So I don't think it's such a foreign concept, even if someone hasn't experienced racism directly, to understand what that means.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think you had a question too. Sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, that was the question. Is it understood?
Okay.
But yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't know. You'd have to ask an African, but that's my opinion.
Okay. All right. Okay. What are your plans for the future? What projects are you working on currently? What are you involved in? And next couple of years, I guess, like where do you see yourself going, or what direction are you moving in right now?
Wonderful question. Thank you. So first and foremost, the biggest project I'm working on right now is my memoir of my time in Tokyo, in Japan in general. But it's also going to be a guidebook to Tokyo, A through Z. So all my favorite places. And it's going to share information on how someone who's visiting Tokyo, these are the places I would recommend you visit, the reason why, giving the information for that. That's my biggest exciting point, because now I've spent over 13 years being an English teacher in Japan, from everything from conversation school to teaching at companies. I was a corporate trainer for Toshiba for 7 years. I taught at Sony, Hitachi, Fujitsu, Fortune 500 companies. Now I am a travel agent. And what I wanted to do was to leverage my experience and love of travel and people into something that I could share with others.
Right, so you have a company for this? Do you have if someone tells you their itinerary, you just find it on the internet? Is this like, do you have a...
No, I have a host company. I have a booking agent. I get paid commission when I do this.
You want to tell, I mean, it's up to you. You want to tell us like what the company's name is, or something?
No, I would love to tell you more. I guess the reason why I'm only hesitant is because I'm telling you things that can't be followed up on. Okay. So what I'm waiting is to have my big, I guess you could say, launch/reveal. And that's coming up next month when I will have my website online. I have a website now that I use with my host agency, but that doesn't reflect me. I want to have one customized for me because I am certified through the Japan National Tourist Organization as a Japan travel specialist. So I want to focus on travel to Japan. So my goal is I'm working on my memoir and my guidebook. I want to have my website up and running where I'm able to do consultations for people. They can ask questions. They can see interviews and pictures of my times in Japan. In September, I'm going to be doing workshops at the 30th Annual Japan Festival in Duluth, Georgia. So I have a lot of things going on, but my style is I would rather have everything solid so that when I tell you these things and I share it with your listeners, they can go to my website and there's content. Okay. There's no need for me to talk about it in more detail because there's nothing to see. I don't want people to get excited about what I'm saying. There's nothing and kind of filter off. I want to have it when I say it. Here's my website. Here's my book. Here's my consultation options. These are the tour packages that I have. This is my presentation, and this is all coming to fruition in the next few months.
Right. So you'll let us know that's iron.
Oh, I think we'll have to have another interview so I can explain it all.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
You like the way I did that by myself? Yeah, I invited myself for the second interview.
Anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to tell us? Literally anything.
Wow. I just want to say, I think the biggest thing, I've been in the process of writing my memoirs and sharing my experience of living in Japan. I guess one of the biggest things, the prominent message that I keep coming across from my experience is go out of your comfort zone, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. For me, it was living in a foreign country, but for someone else, that could mean getting that degree in psychology, even though they went to school for engineering. Whatever it is that you desire, whatever it is that is scary to you, but actually makes you happy or excited, I feel is a thing that you should definitely put your energy into and pursue. So I guess that would be my closing comment.
Okay, understood. And I appreciate you telling me that and telling the listeners who listen to this interview that.
Yay, thank you. My pleasure.